Good afternoon, everybody. We have a quick Karoline Leavitt just went. She's live as we speak. You guys know how I like to go a little bit after because when you cover live, you don't know what's going to happen. So I like to be able to, if there's music or anything that bad happens, I could be able to control it. So, anyways, she's live right now talking about an imminent war with Iran. Exactly what we've been talking about now for the past week. So let's go to that. I got a couple more things and then I'm up. This won't be too much of a long one, but let's see what she has to say. I'm going over to the White House right now. Hit the like, share, and sub if you're just popping in. And yeah, let's go.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for your patience as always. Let's begin with some scheduling announcements for the remainder of President Trump's very busy week. Today at 3 p.m., President Trump will host a Black History Month reception in the East Room of the White House. I know many of you will attend, and we will see you up there. Tomorrow, President Trump will host a Board of Peace meeting at the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace, where he will announce that member states have pledged more than $5 billion towards the Gaza humanitarian and reconstruction efforts and have also committed thousands of personnel to the International Stabilization Force and local police to maintain security and peace for Gazans. Tomorrow afternoon, the president will travel to the great state of Georgia, where he will visit 2 local businesses and give a speech on his efforts to make life affordable for working people. On Friday, President Trump will host a working breakfast with governors in the East Room here at the White House. And on Saturday night, President Trump and the First Lady will host the annual Governor's Dinner. Next, I'd like to provide an update on the economy. We're seeing promising signs every day that 2026 is going to be a record successful year for the American people, just as President Trump promised them. The January jobs report shattered expectations, highlighting how the president's pro-growth economic agenda is fueling American prosperity. The economy added 172,000 new private sector jobs to kick off the year. That's more than 2.5 times economists' predictions. The labor force participation rate went up while the unemployment rate fell. The prime age labor force participation rate is now at its highest since 2001. Most importantly, 100% of all job creation under President Trump continues to be in the private sector. This is truly remarkable. That's 615,000 private sector jobs that have been added in President Trump's second term thus far. These are real working people. These are real American families who will be living out their American dream. Meanwhile, federal government employment has shrunk to its lowest level since 1966, saving taxpayers $29 billion annually. And all of the net job growth under President Trump has gone to native-born Americans, ending the disgraceful pattern under Joe Biden of job gains going to non-citizens and illegal aliens. Additionally, on inflation, the new CPI report is even more proof of the progress made by President Trump. Despite all of the doom casting from the so-called experts, the president has managed to utilize powerful tariffs to secure trillions of dollars in investments into our country and rebalance our trade deals while simultaneously cooling inflation. Year over year inflation fell to 2.4% in January, beating expectations again and marking the lowest level since May. Core inflation, the best measure of inflation, dropped to its lowest level in nearly 5 years. Meanwhile, real average hourly earnings for all private sector workers rose in the month of January, which means more money is going back directly into people's pockets. After only 1 year of President Trump back in office, real earnings for all private sector workers have outpaced inflation by nearly $1,400, earning back roughly half of the $2,900 they lost under Joe Biden when 40-year high inflation was stealing Americans' purchasing power. President Trump's policies are and will continue to allow Americans' incomes to go further for bills, retirement, and achieving the American dream. A key part of the American dream is buying a home. And that is finally becoming more affordable under this president. This past week, it was announced the annual mortgage cost for a new home has fallen by $4,000 so far under President Trump, after rising by roughly $15,000 under Joe Biden. As a result, mortgage affordability has reached a 4-year best following recent bold action by the president to make home ownership more attainable for American families, not large Wall Street corporate institutional investors. At the same time, national median rents have fallen to a 4-year low and have declined for 6 consecutive months. The annual rental cost for a new rental unit has fallen nearly $100 so far under President Trump, after rising more than $3,000 under Joe Biden. And many are crediting that to the president's deportation efforts to remove illegal aliens from our communities and therefore from housing that should be used for American citizens. At the grocery store, the price of eggs, dairy, cheese, fresh fruit, apples, oranges, potatoes, tomatoes, and butter have fallen since President Trump took office, and he is continuing to fight for even lower prices at the grocery store for the American consumer. At the gas pump, fuel prices are down by almost 10% over the past year. The average national price for a gallon of regular gas is now less than $3 and is approaching $2.70 in some states, and much lower than that in many states across the country as well. We've seen in several states gas is under $2 a gallon. And at the pharmacy, prescription drug prices are down over the past year, with even more price relief ahead for American patients, thanks to President Trump's most favored nation drug pricing deals and the great healthcare plan, which he is calling on Congress to pass as soon as possible. What President Trump wants Americans to understand is that this is only the start and the best is yet to come. The historic success that we have seen since he took office is just the beginning of enormous growth and opportunity that we are about to witness. And I know the president looks forward to hitting the road and being with the great people of Georgia tomorrow to talk about just this. So with that, today, I know there's a lot of news. I will open it up to take your questions, and we're going to start, as always, with our new media seat, the great Michael Graham from Inside Sources. Thank you for being here, Michael.
Thank you for having us, and thanks from our 200 newspaper partners around the country. So you mentioned gas. We didn't mention natural gas. And back where you live, your friends and family are paying among the highest prices for natural gas to heat their home and for electricity generation, the number one source of power across New England. The cheap gas is in Pennsylvania. The two highest places to buy gas in the country, New York City and Boston. The problem is the blue states will not allow the gas to travel to produce electricity or to reach customers. When President Trump first came back in office, there was some talk, him and Governor Hochul in New York possibly reaching a deal. When will consumers in the Northeast feel relief from President Trump's energy policies? And what can he do about state objections to expansion of infrastructure? Then I have a quick follow-up.
Sure, absolutely. Well, the president has promised all Americans across the country, and in particular in the Northeast, where we do face much higher costs of electricity, unfortunately, because of the Democrat policies in the area. From the federal government's perspective, the president and the National Energy Dominance Council, Secretaries Wright and Burgum, are doing all we can when it comes to federal permitting. The drill baby drill agenda is obviously underway. The president has made a huge push for more fossil fuels in this country. You look at what he did last week with respect to coal. Coal truly keeps the lights on in this country. We learned that in the recent winter storms. However, there's only so much that can be done at the federal level. That's why the president has called on blue state governors to participate in this energy dominance agenda, including governors in New England and the Northeast, by contacting Governor Hochul directly to get this Constitution pipeline underway. This is not only going to bring down the cost of energy in the Northeast, it's also going to support job growth and energy affordability and more opportunity for workers in the Northeast. And I just have a quick statistic here on energy that I found fascinating, and it's obviously true because I'm saying it up here. Red states with Republican legislatures currently enjoy lower average retail electricity prices than blue states with Democrat legislatures. And that's exactly why the president is calling on all blue state governors across New England and the Northeast to get on board. Let's bring prices down for all Americans, whether they live in a red or a blue state.
So right down the street from your alma mater, San Antonio College, you talk about building an ICE facility that's causing a lot of political agita in New Hampshire, and for the Republican governor, Kelly Ayotte. Seem to be some miscommunications argued on both sides. Even Republican supporters of Trump who live in the town say, we're not sure we want this. What's your message to the folks in New Hampshire about this proposed ICE facility?
The message is that illegal immigration, while the border is secure, is still a problem across our entire homeland. And the previous administration allowed nearly 20 million illegal aliens from countries all over the world into our country. And the president and Secretary Noem have done a phenomenal job at deporting. Nearly 3 million illegals have left the country either through deportation or self-deportation over the past year. But obviously, there are a lot more illegal alien criminals left in our homeland. That includes in New England. There are many within our communities in New Hampshire, in Maine, and definitely in Massachusetts and in the Boston suburbs that need to be arrested, detained, and deported back to their home countries. And so the president and Secretary Noem, and I know ICE, are engaged with local governors across the whole country, including in New Hampshire, to open more detention facilities. This is an unfortunate consequence of the previous administration's border invasion that the president has thankfully put a stop to. But of course, we still need to grapple with the illegal alien criminals who are here, and that requires more detention space. Thank you, Michael. Garrett.
On Iran, I'm not asking you for like military secrets here, but can you
You
share?
know I would be so unwise.
Unless you want to give them. Can you share a little bit about the president's thinking on whether or not to strike Iran, who he's talking to, what information he's consuming, and why a strike might be necessary on a nuclear program he says was obliterated by the last U.S. strike?
Well, there's many reasons and arguments that one could make for a strike against Iran. The president had a very successful operation as commander-in-chief with Operation Midnight Hammer, as you know, as you just said, totally obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. The president has always been very clear, though, with respect to Iran or any country around the world, diplomacy is always his first option, and Iran would be very wise to make a deal with President Trump and with this administration. He's talking to many people, of course, his national security team, first and foremost, and you know who the members of that team are. And this is something, obviously, the president takes seriously. He's always thinking about what's in the best interest of the United States of America, of our military, of the American people. And that's how he makes decisions with respect to military action of any kind.
And on the flip side of that, he's got the State of the Union speech next week. If he is going to take military action, does the administration believe it's important to sort of convince the American people, sell the American people? Will we hear something about that in the State of the Union to make the case for why something like that might be necessary to risk American lives?
Look, again, I'm not going to engage in a hypothetical. Good try, Garrett, but you can't catch me there. I will say, with respect to the State of the Union, you'll be hearing more about what is to come from the president's speech very soon at the appropriate time. It is going to be a very good and powerful speech, so everyone should tune in. Ed.
Karoline, thank you. I got two questions for
Sure.
you. About Independence Hall in Philadelphia. The administration's decided to appeal a judge's ruling that in essence was trying to put the slavery displays back, arguing that the federal government believed it had the power to disassemble and disassemble historical truths when it has some domain over historical facts. The judge said it does not. The administration said that you were planning to put up updated interpretive materials and provide a fuller account of the history of slavery at Independence Hall. What more was the administration or is the administration planning to add?
I'm not familiar with this specific instance, Ed, to be honest with you, but I will check in with the appropriate people who are overseeing this, and we'll get you a more firm answer.
One other question. Then yesterday in his statement about Jesse Jackson, the president said, despite the fact that I'm falsely and consistently called a racist by the scoundrels and lunatics on the radical left, Democrats all, it was always my pleasure to help Jesse along the way. Where or when does the president believe he's been falsely called racist?
You're kidding, right?
No.
I will pull you plethora of examples. I'm going to get my team in that room to start going through the internet of radical Democrats throughout the years, Ed, who have accused this president falsely of being a racist. And I'm sure there's many people in this room and on network television across the country who have accused him of the same. In fact, I know that because I've seen it with my own eyes. And the president very much looks forward to having an event later this afternoon at 3 p.m. to celebrate Black History Month and to talk about how his policies are advancing opportunity and prosperity for all Americans through record tax cuts through the Trump accounts that all Americans can access regardless of race. These are a great thing for the next generation of Americans. The president has also awarded hundreds of millions of dollars in additional funding to strengthen educational outcomes at historically Black colleges and universities across the country. Again, the president is protecting the hard-earned benefits of the 2.4 million Black veterans who honorably served in our nation's armed forces by reducing the Black backlog of veterans waiting for their VA benefits and for their home loans through the Department of Veterans Affairs. So there is a lot this president has done for all Americans, regardless of race, and he has absolutely been falsely called and smeared as a racist, and I'm happy to provide you those receipts, and we gladly will right after this briefing. Jennifer, go ahead.
You mentioned the $5 billion in pledges for the Board of Peace. Will we be able to get a breakdown of which countries are providing each of those pledges?
Yes.
And which countries are providing troops?
Sure, we're happy to provide that breakdown, and I'm also happy to provide the list of countries that will be attending tomorrow. I know it's more than 20 countries. I know there's a lot of interest in that. I'll spare myself reading you the list of 20 countries from the podium, but we will provide it, and the president will be opening the meeting tomorrow with remarks, and will sort of formally be chairing the meeting at the beginning before he departs for Georgia tomorrow.
Sewage spill, the sewage pipe that broke on the Potomac. Can you give us an update on the federal government's response? And officials have told CBS that some of that aging infrastructure is a concern, that this particular pipe wasn't even of the most urgent concern. Do you know if the government is looking into which other pipes could be at risk of collapsing?
Well, the next step in this process is for any of the three local jurisdictions involved, whether that's the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state of Maryland and Governor Moore, or the District of Columbia, to step forward and to ask the federal government for help and to ask for the Stafford Act to be implemented here so that the federal government can go and take control of this local infrastructure that has been abandoned and neglected by Governor Moore in Maryland for far too long. In fact, it's no secret that Maryland's water and infrastructure have been in dire need of repair. Their infrastructure has received a nearly failing grade in the 2025 report card from the American Society of Civil Engineers. This is the same grade they've received 5 years earlier. There has been no improvement under the leadership of Governor Moore. He's clearly shown he's incapable of fixing this problem, which is why President Trump and the federal government are standing by to step in. And for all of the environmentalists in the room and across the District of Columbia, let's all hope and pray that this governor does the right thing and ask President Trump to get involved, because it will be an ecological and environmental disaster if the federal government does not step in to help. But of course, we need the state and local jurisdictions to make that formal request. That's part of the legal process to move forward. Peter.
So you said that any of the three Democrats just need to ask. A few minutes ago, Maryland's Governor Wes Moore asked. He said, if the president wants me to ask nicely, our response is this: please, Mr. President, do your job.
To which I say, I'll ask the president and we will provide you with the next steps. But in all seriousness, the federal government has been preparing plans. The White House has been in contact with FEMA, with the Army Corps of Engineers, with the Environmental Protection Agency. Again, we've been standing by. This is a problem we want to fix, not just for the federal government, but for everyone who lives in the District of Columbia, including all of you. So you're welcome.
To your point about that, there are a lot of events coming up for America 250. The president wants people from all over to come to the nation's capital. Is he worried that by the summer, the Potomac River will still smell like poop?
He is worried about that, which is why the federal government wants to fix it. And we hope that the local authorities will cooperate with us in doing so. Steve.
What will the $5 billion be used for in Board of Peace? And will that be sort of a down payment for much more money?
You'll be hearing more about that tomorrow at the meeting. If you recall, at the first meeting when we were in Davos, Jared Kushner did provide a very detailed PowerPoint presentation for the vision of Gaza, the reconstruction and the humanitarian efforts, of course, providing local security on the ground. That will be part of the discussion tomorrow, is how can we maintain security? First, you must achieve security to get to prosperity, which is sort of the second part of this plan. So you'll be hearing more about that tomorrow. But I would just point out, $5 billion worth of investment. We're talking about reconstructing Gaza. I remember when those words came from the president's lips in the East Room many months ago, and all of you in the press were bewildered at how the president could have such an ambitious goal of rebuilding Gaza, which is obviously a place that has been just turmoiled by violence and chaos for many, many years. But we are well underway in doing that, and it's a historic accomplishment for this president.
Secondly, is the president seeing enough progress in the Iran talks to let negotiations go a little further? I mean, where do things stand after yesterday's talks?
I think you heard from the administration and the State Department yesterday that there was a little bit of progress made, but we're still very far apart on some issues. I believe the Iranians are expected to come back to us with some more detail in the next couple of weeks. And so the president will continue to watch how this plays out. Sure.
Follow up on that. Thank you, Karoline. On these Iran talks, I mean, how much time is the president willing to give it before he is seriously maybe considering military action? Is he willing to give it that full 2 weeks? And has he given the Iranian officials a deadline on when he wants to see a deal?
It's a fair question, Rachel, but I'm not going to set deadlines on behalf of the president of the United States.
And then just one more on the shutdown. We're now in this partial shutdown over DHS funding. Has the president personally spoken to the Democratic leaders in Congress? Can we expect to see them at the White House to try to make a deal on this?
Not to my knowledge, he hasn't had any direct conversation or correspondence with Democrat lawmakers recently. It doesn't mean he's not willing to. I'm just not aware of any conversations that have taken place. I do know the White House and the president's representatives have been in direct conversations with both Democrats and Republicans. But of course, Democrats are the reason that the Department of Homeland Security is currently shut down. They have chosen to act against the American people for political reasons. And now we have FEMA workers, the men and women of the United States Coast Guard, men and women of TSA who keep our airports moving, who will be working without paychecks for no good reason other than the Democrats wanting to pick a fight with Donald Trump. And the president thinks that is irresponsible and despicable. He wants the government to be open. We've been engaged in good faith negotiations with the Democrats. Last night, they sent over a counter proposal that frankly was very unserious. And we hope they get serious very soon because Americans are going to be impacted by this. Sure.
Thanks, Karoline. President Trump has talked about a forthcoming executive order on voter ID. Is there more details you can provide about for that? And can you talk about any steps that you're taking to overcome core challenges that you've kind of faced in this area before on voting?
Well, as the president said in that Truth Social post, he's discussing and exploring legal options for a potential executive order with respect to voter ID. But this is something he's made very clear he wants Congress to get done. The Save America Act is a common sense piece of legislation that has now passed the House of Representatives to ensure that voter ID is a requirement in the United States of America. This is a common sense policy that nearly 90% of the country agrees with. You need an ID to go and purchase alcohol. You need an ID to go to the library and check out a book. And so the president thinks you should have an ID to vote in our nation's elections. And I know the vast majority of Americans agree with him on that. And he wants Congress to move quickly to get it done. Sure.
On Cuba, you know, it's increasingly being described as a humanitarian crisis. What is a successful outcome for the U.S. that the U.S. wants to see in Cuba? Is there anything less than regime change that would be considered success?
I think as Secretary Rubio has articulated and the president himself, we obviously want to see flourishing and prosperous democracies all over the world, especially in our own hemisphere. I'm not dictating any actions the United States may take to get there, but of course, that's in the United States' best interest to have Cuba be a truly free and prosperous democracy. Unfortunately, right now, that is not the case. They are a regime that is falling. Their country is collapsing. And that's why we believe it's in their best interest to make very dramatic changes very soon. And we'll see what they decide to do. Sure.
Thank you so much. Following up on Gaza, this $5 billion, who exactly will be in charge of managing this money? Would that be the president himself making the final decision on how these funds are spent?
It will be the Board of Peace, which the president is, of course, the chairman of, but all of the member parties, I believe, will have votes on the funding. And then, of course, there is that technocratic layer underneath the official Board of Peace with the member countries that will be making decisions as well. So if you just go back and look at the first event that we had where we sort of unveiled the structure of the Board of Peace, that structure remains in place and they'll be overseeing the funds that will be announced tomorrow for their reconstruction and humanitarian efforts. Sure.
Another question on that Board of Peace announcement. You mentioned there will be the announcement of who comprises that international stability force. How soon will that force be deployed? And have all of the regional partners, all of the regional countries signed off on the makeup of that force?
I don't have a timeline for you today, but again, I'm sure you'll hear more about this tomorrow. So you'll join us at the event. Deanna.
Thanks, Caroline. Two questions.
Sure.
First, the president has talked a lot about housing affordability, and several countries that are facing housing shortages, including Canada, for example, have imposed a ban on non-citizens, like foreigners, from buying their houses. Do you know if that's a strategy that the president would be willing to deploy?
Well, first of all, the president is obviously committed to deporting illegal aliens from our country and those who are not lawfully present in the United States, which he has done at a record pace, which has led to the falling of rents, as I pointed out in my opening remarks. Secondly, the president has recently announced that he is fighting for a ban on institutional investors and Wall Street billionaire corporations from buying up single-family homes that should be lived in his opinion, by American families. We know this is going to have a remarkable impact on the housing market and on prices and supply and demand for the American consumer and the American family. And then thirdly, the president is also expediting permitting as fast as we possibly can to build more homes, to increase supply, to obviously bring down the cost of home ownership and purchasing homes for the American people. And then also, as I mentioned as well, we do see mortgage rates falling. So all of this is combining to make housing more affordable in this country. There's still a lot more to do. The president is still digging his way out of the mess that was created by Joe Biden's administration in jacking up mortgage rates and jacking up housing costs. But we do see very positive trends in this direction.
This might mess up the whole show, but to the person that just said, please mention to me that you voted for Trump while we're standing in a bar. I'm going to wear your skin to work tomorrow. Bro, I will not only wear a MAGA hat with an American flag taped around me like a scarf as I'm pounding out you know who. Yeah, bro, make another little brother for you. Shut up, boy.
And the president wants the United States to be a nation of owners, not renters. He wants families to live in homes, not institutions and big corporations. Michael.
Caroline. Secondly, on Ukraine,
Sure.
Yesterday Zelensky said in an interview that he says that it's not fair that the president is saying that Ukraine has to make concessions. He's saying this publicly and not Russia. Has the president seen these comments? And when the president says that Ukraine has to make concessions, is he referring to giving up Donbass?
I think the president would respond to that by saying he does not think it's fair that thousands of Ukrainians are losing their lives, and Russians too, in this deadly war. And that's why the president and his team have committed a tremendous amount of time and energy in bringing this war that is very far away from the United States of America. But nevertheless, this is a president of peace. And so he's committed a tremendous amount of time and energy to bringing this war to an end. Just yesterday, there was another round of trilateral talks between the U.S., Russia, and Ukraine. There was meaningful progress made in both parties. Both sides agreed to update their respective leaders and to continue to work towards a peace deal together. So there will be another round of talks in the future. But I think the president views this entire situation as very unfair, not just for Russians and Ukrainians who have lost their lives, but also for the American people and the American taxpayer who were footing the bill for this war effort before President Trump put a stop to it. And I would just remind everyone around the world that the United States is still selling weapons to NATO that are then being sent to Ukraine in their defense of their freedom in their borders. Michael.
Russia is reportedly joining Iran for joint naval exercises in the Gulf of Oman this week. Has the president issued any kind of warning to Russia or even China not to involve itself if the U.S. decides to strike Iran?
Not to my knowledge, no, or not that I would dictate from this podium. I wouldn't reveal the president's private conversations with world leaders. With respect to that, again, when it comes to Iran, the president has a decision to make, and he will do that. And I'm not going to broadcast what that decision may be ahead of him.
President Barack Obama, Caroline, was recently asked if aliens are real. He says they're real, but he hasn't seen them. The president's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, told Miranda Devine of the New York Post that the president has a prepared speech on this issue that he prepares to deliver at the right time. Is that true? And does the Trump administration believe aliens are real?
Well, a speech on aliens would be news to me. That sounds very exciting, though. I'll have to check in with our speech writing team. And that would be of great interest to me personally, and I'm sure all of you in this room, and apparently former President Obama, too. So we'll keep you posted on that. Tyler.
The White House has touted an unprecedented amount of cooperation with counties in Minneapolis after the negotiations with Tom Homan. Are those written or verbal deals with the sheriff? How many have agreed to cooperate on immigration enforcement who previously refused to do so?
Yeah, the last time I spoke with Mr. Homan, which was just a few days ago, he assured us that nearly every single county in the state of Minnesota has agreed to notify ICE when they are releasing criminal illegal aliens from their jails. This is an unprecedented level of cooperation that we have not seen. It has led to not only cooperation to detain illegal aliens in Minnesota, which just this past week, I have looked at the list. They've detained some very heinous people who none of you would want living in your communities, but has also led to a much more calm situation on the ground. We've also seen, and you've seen this with your own eyes play out, the local police and the state police have now cooperated in the arrest of left-wing agitators and criminals who are unlawfully obstructing immigration enforcement in their efforts. So this is a huge win. And again, the president sent Mr. Homan to Minnesota to do a job, and he has done it well. And I think the situation on the ground proves that.
Are those like written agreements that they've been signed by various officials in the state?
These are agreements that have been made by state and local officials in the federal government, and we are seeing that cooperation play out every single day. These counties are notifying ICE when they are releasing criminal illegals from their jail, and we do know that they are arresting left-wing agitators who are unlawfully impeding law enforcement. There's video to show that. Show it yourself. You can view it with your own eyes. John.
Thank you, Karoline. You mentioned two things: DHS closed and the SAVE Act IDs. Both of these could get solved in 15 minutes if Senate leader John Thune simply got rid of this phony 60-vote cloture rule and got 51 votes, and that would be the end of it, because everyone in this room knows if the Democrats take over, they'll get rid of that rule in 90 minutes. They already tried it one time, and the two Democratic senators that stopped it are no longer there, Manchin and Sinema. President Trump is backing a lot of these senators for re-election, and yet they will not get rid of the 60-vote cloture rule, which is holding everything up. What is the president's position on John Thune in the Senate finally getting rid of this so this legislation can get moved?
Well, the president has a good relationship with Senate Majority Leader John Thune. They keep in very close contact, and they work together all of the time. I hear your passion in your voice, and I know it's shared by many Americans across the country, including the president himself. He wants to see the SAVE Act voted, and he's expressed that both publicly to all of you, the American people, but also privately in his conversations with Senate Majority Leader Thune and many other members of Congress as well. Yes, Rav, go ahead. Good to see you.
So J.B. Pritzker just recently signed the bill. The law went into effect in January, and it's supposedly going to allocate about $2.5 billion to illegals to go to college and financial aid in the state of Illinois. What is the White House's reaction to this? Illinois is already, by 2027, they're supposed to have a $3 billion deficit. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, we'll have to take a look at that. I would say the president certainly thinks that Governor Pritzker is not doing a very good job of managing his state, as evidenced by not only the waste, fraud, and abuse, but also the crime in the city of Chicago that unfortunately Governor Pritzker has refused to pick up the phone and call the White House and ask for help on, which is something his residents want him to do, but he refuses to do for political reasons. As for the specific money, we'll take a look and get you an answer. You're welcome. John.
Thanks a lot, Karoline. Two questions. One is about the president's trip to Georgia tomorrow. If you can provide some additional information about that, why Northwest Georgia was chosen for this particular trip, for instance.
Sure. Well, Georgia is obviously a very important state to the president and to the Republican Party. And the president loves the people of Georgia. He'll be touring, like I said, a steel facility, and then he'll also be stopping by another local business. And he will be giving remarks on affordability, on the economy, on all of the great economic news that I just shared with you earlier. He'll be meeting and greeting with everyday Americans. And that's what the president loves to do, to get out across the country. And he's spoken about his intention to go across the country a lot more, and obviously tomorrow's trip is evidence of that.
Secondly, last week, as you know, big event that took place in the Roosevelt Room, the president announcing that the EPA has repealed these federal limits on emissions for cars, trucks, and power plants. And in the president's presentation, he mentioned that American families will save $2,500 for a new car or truck. Where is the promise coming from automakers that they're going to pass along their savings to those families all across the country?
It's a great question, John. That was an economic analysis that was provided to the president, and I'd be happy to provide that to you so you can take a look yourself. But I'm glad you brought up the president's announcement last week, because this is one of the largest deregulatory actions ever taken in the United States of America. And overall, it's going to save our country $1.3 trillion in regulatory burdens that have really done nothing for our country, nothing for our environment, nothing for our economy. In fact, this announcement received widespread and bipartisan praise. I think I recall seeing the editorial board of the Washington Post, of all places, even commending the president and Administrator Zeldin for this historic action last week. So there's no doubt it is going to save the American consumer money, and I'd be happy to provide that specific economic analysis to you. Sure, in the middle, go ahead. Yes.
Thank you. Governor Moore in Maryland signed a bill that is ending the law enforcement cooperation with ICE. And by doing that, a lot of local sheriffs are not happy. And in fact, they met today in Annapolis to come up with either a legal action. What is the message of the White House to those sheriffs and to the residents of Maryland?
Well, first of all, it's another despicable action by Governor Wes Moore. Why would you prevent your state and local law enforcement from cooperating with federal law enforcement? If you just ask them, to your point, if you ask a sheriff across the country if they want to have that level of cooperation and coordination with the federal government, of course they do. It makes their jobs easier. It keeps them out of hostile and dangerous environments. It allows them to detain illegal alien criminals who have committed heinous crimes in our country with the most safe circumstances possible. So the president, of course, continues to always stand on the side of law enforcement. And this is another just horrible and frankly political action taken by Governor Wes Moore. And unfortunately, the people of his state are going to reap the consequences of it. Sure.
Thank you, Karoline. President Trump just said on Truth Social that it would be a big mistake for the UK to hand over control of Chagos Islands to Mauritius. But the State Department earlier this week has said the U.S. does support that handover. So does this post now suggest that the U.S. does not, or that President Trump had changed his mind on this?
The post should be taken as the policy of the Trump administration. It's coming straight from the horse's mouth. When you see it on Truth Social, you know it's directly from President Trump. That's the beauty of this president and his transparency and relaying this administration's policies to all of you and to the rest of the world. Carrie, go ahead.
There's been a series of walkouts from public school students that have been sort of provoked by a number of public school administrators. What are your thoughts on this? What's the administration's thoughts on this? Will they be taking any actions on these walkouts against ICE?
Look, I think obviously the president and the administration support the First Amendment rights of all American citizens. And if they're peacefully protesting, then that's their constitutional obligation and right and responsibility to do so. Of course, the administration also wants to see American school children in school learning and educating. And I think it does speak to the left-wing bias that is unfortunately very present in our nation's public school system. And it's something that Secretary McMahon has been working very hard to root out of our public school system by ensuring that local governance and local control takes place over our nation's public schools, and that parents and educators closest to students have a greater say over curriculum and academia in our country. Take a couple more. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. The Vatican announced earlier today that they would not be joining the Board of Peace initiatives over concerns that it could potentially compete with the United Nations over handling crisis conflicts. What's the White House's response to that?
Yeah, look, we saw that. I think it's deeply unfortunate. I don't think that peace should be partisan or political or controversial. And of course, the administration wants all those who were invited to join the Board of Peace to join. Because again, the Board of Peace is overseeing the reconstruction of a territory that has been plagued with violence, with bloodshed, with poverty for far too long. And this president has a very bold and ambitious plan and vision to rebuild and reconstruct Gaza, which is well underway because of the Board of Peace. This is a legitimate organization where there are tens of member countries from around the world, and we think that's an unfortunate decision. In the back, sure. I'll go to both of you, sure.
Okay.
Go ahead, and then Jake, you can go.
Caroline, can you tell me, is there an update regarding the tariff rebate checks that the White House has promised?
I don't have an update for you on timeline, but I know that it's something that the president and his economic team continue to very seriously discuss.
Thank you, Caroline. I've got 2 questions. First, does the president see some sort of religious or prophetic component to the unfolding developments in the Middle East?
I haven't spoken to him about that particular perspective, to be honest with you. But of course, the president wants peace for all people of all faiths all around the world. And that's part of his push to create peace in the Middle East, which he has done successfully.
And my second question is, as his popularity rises around the world, and especially in regions where he's invested so much effort in promoting peace and ending wars, do you think we might be watching the emergence of a global MAGA movement? Is this something that the president has discussed at all?
Well, I don't know, Jake, but I sure hope so. Take a couple more. Go ahead. Sure.
I wanted to ask you about Iran. As the U.S. military builds up around Iran, is President Trump coordinating war plans with Israel so that if he does decide to strike, that Israel will be a part of those strikes?
Look, I don't have any specifics on the president's recent conversations with Israel. As you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu was just here at the White House last week or the week before. But again, with respect to Iran, there was some progress made yesterday. There are still a lot of details to discuss, and we'll continue to see how this plays out. The United States government, of course, is always in close communication and correspondence with the state of Israel, and that starts right at the top with the president and Prime Minister Netanyahu themselves. One more. Go ahead.
Last week, we saw the underlying affidavit for the search warrant that was executed in Fulton County, and there was not any mention in that document about foreign election interference in the 2020 election. I'm wondering if DNI Gabbard has uncovered that in Georgia or in Puerto Rico, where we know her team was sent as well.
I don't have any updates for you on that today. I would defer you to the director's office herself. Sure.
Two questions. One on the president's schedule today. It says he has signing time. What is he signing today? Are we expecting executive orders or actions? That's the first question. And then second, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that a U.S. arms sale package for Taiwan is in limbo. Can you just confirm this reporting / offer any additional comment? And how concerned is the administration that if an arms deal with Taiwan went through, that this could disrupt the China-U.S. Trade truce?
Sure. Well, I haven't read the full Wall Street Journal report. I will just say with respect to an arms sale to Taiwan, I don't have any announcements or updates on that for you today. And to your first question about what the president will be signing, he will be signing an executive order, which you will all be hearing about later this afternoon. And you will see him in 1 hour at the Black History Month reception. We'll see you there. Thank you.
What's up, everybody? All right, let's get to the news real fast. I got a handful of stuff for us before I get up out of here. Usually YouTube for the past week or two has been making me wait an hour before they start letting me even get people in the room. So let's see what happens. But let's go. Let's get this party started real fast. I got a handful of things. This is just the news right here. Let's go.
Body and mind.
When one shows up without the other, the moment stalls. Blue Chew.
The worst state to live in right now is Ohio, and nobody's
for 2028. And that's the angle.
Blue states now notorious for having major budget woes, but now that dysfunction is now working its way down to the local level. New York City Mayor Zoran Kami Marxist Mamdani is finding out the hard way that his city is spending way beyond their means because he wants to spend a whopping $127 billion, which, by the way, is more than the entire budget for this free state of Florida that I live in. And he's staring down a massive budget deficit, and he has a brilliant solution to fix it. Raise taxes, of course. Now, Zoran wants to see property tax rates in the city increase by almost 10%, which, of course, will almost certainly lead to similar rent increases and probably more mass migration. But that is only a Band-Aid. Zoran really wants a major tax hike on the wealthy, but Governor Hochul so far is not super keen on driving more tax revenue out of the state. So she's throwing Zoran a bone, an extra $1.6 billion to hold him over for now. For now, keywords. But what does he need more money for anyway? Well, just a few small things, $33 billion for pensions, debt service, plus an extra billion for illegals, another $30 billion for social services. New Yorkers, you're getting exactly what you voted for. Congratulations.
Local tax experts are here. Now you can meet with a TurboTax expert in your community. They can do your taxes for you and get you every dollar you deserve. Local tax experts are here. Hand off your taxes with confidence.
I can turn your wildest ideas into a song. Just describe it in a few words, choose a style, and let Mareka V.
I'm Emily.
Hello, everybody. So, great financial numbers you saw. Low inflation, very low inflation. Prices are down, way down. Gasoline is less than $2 in many places, a gallon, which nobody expected to see, but I did, because we're going by the initial expression of drill, baby, drill, and prices are coming down very strongly. And as goes gasoline and oil and gas, so goes the rest of other products that were high because of Biden. So we inherited a mess, and we've brought our country back very, very powerfully. Crime numbers are way down, despite the fact that they let in 25 million people, many of whom should not have been allowed into our country with their open border policy. But it's the country is doing very well. Any questions?
What are you expecting from these Iran talks in Geneva tomorrow?
So I'll be involved in those talks indirectly, and they'll be very important. We'll see what can happen. It's been typically Iran's a very tough negotiator. They're good negotiators, or bad negotiators. I would say they're bad negotiators, because we could have had a deal instead of sending the B-2s in to knock out their nuclear potential, and we had to send the B-2s. I hope they're going to be more reasonable. They want to make a deal.
Have you been told that a deal is next to impossible?
No.
Body and mind. When one shows up without the other, the moment stalls.
No, I think they want to make a deal. I don't think they want the consequences of not making a deal. They want to make a deal.
Are you going to sit down with Democrats this week on DHS funding, sir?
I will, but we have to protect our law enforcement. They've done a great job. I just got finished saying that we have the best crime numbers we've had in many years, and on murders, 125 years, and that's despite a lot of people that shouldn't have been let into our country coming into our country, criminals, many criminals, but we've taken out tens of thousands of people, brought them back to their countries. Many of the criminals that were brought in, allowed to come in, have been removed. So, we're Okay, but to have the best crime numbers, which aren't made by me, these are made by people that do that, many left-leaning. We have the best murder numbers, horrible thing to say, but we have the best murder numbers since 1900. That's before my father was born, 125 years, think of it. The best crime numbers since 1900 having to do with murder, and really good crime numbers, the best in years.
Are there any demands that Democrats are making that you're okay with?
Well, I don't like some of the things they're asking for. We're going to protect law enforcement. We're going to protect ICE. You know, they're part of the whole system that is working. In Washington, D.C. now is considered a very safe city. When I took over, it was a city that you were losing 2-3 people a week. Over 100 people a year were being murdered in Washington. Now it's considered a very safe city. And we did that. I did it over a fairly short period of time, too.
On DHS, recent news reports have discussed the widespread belief that Kristi, Noem, and Corey Lewandowski are in a personal relationship. Is that a bad look? Recent news reports have discussed the possibility that Kristi, Noem, and Corey Lewandowski are in a close personal relationship. Is that a bad look, and do you think she'll be in the job much longer?
I don't know about that. I mean, I haven't heard that. I'll find out about it, but I have not heard it.
Do you think that will you give your State of the Union speech if we're still in a shutdown next week?
Well, I think I would. Yeah. Wouldn't bother me. I would give it. Yeah.
How are the negotiations going?
With what? Which one? We have a lot of negotiations.
No, with the government shutdown.
This is a Democrat shutdown. This has nothing to do with Republicans. This is a Democrat shutdown.
The
They're upset that the crime numbers are so good. They're very unhappy that the crime numbers are so good. They're very unhappy that there's a movement for getting voter ID. They want voter ID. The population, 98%, want voter ID. They don't want voter ID because they want to cheat in elections. They also want other things. They don't want mail-in ballots. They want to end mail-in ballots, which is corrupt. And one other thing that they're insisting on is proof of citizenship. And the Democrats don't want to give proof of citizenship. They don't want to give voter ID. Think of it. Who wouldn't want proof of citizenship? I ask you, Steve. Who wouldn't want voter ID? And why would you want mail-in ballots if you know it's corrupt? It's a corrupt system. We're the only country in the world that has this system of mail-in ballots. Think of it. The only country in the world that has this system of mail-in ballots, because they cheat. And the fact is they could never get elected if they ever changed. They know if you had voter ID, if you had proof of citizenship, they could never win an election. And they know that, and they're fighting to the hill. And I put this down with men playing in women's sports. I put it down with transgender for everybody. I put it down with their horrible open border policy as being ridiculous. They don't want voter ID, no voter ID. And I put that down in the same category with men playing in women's sports. I'm going to add a fourth category. They don't want voter ID. Go ahead.
So Hillary Clinton said in an interview today that she and her husband are getting pulled into the Epstein matter to divert attention from you, and that your administration has something to hide. What's your response to that?
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. They went in hoping that they'd find it and found just the opposite. I've been totally exonerated. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein was fighting that I don't get elected with some author, a sleazebag, by the way. And I've been totally exonerated. No, they're getting pulled in, and that's their problem. I don't know. They're going to have to see what happens. But I watched her in Munich, and she seriously has Trump derangement syndrome.
Do you think that she should publicly testify?
You know, I've been totally exonerated on Epstein. And it's really interesting because they've been pulled in. Think of it. They've been pulled in. Clinton and many other Democrats have been pulled in, yeah.
The USS Gerald Ford, which is sprinting from the Caribbean to the Middle East, is about to hit its 8-month deployment mark. Usually they're deployed for about 6 months or so. Is there any concern that U.S. carriers are being stretched too thin?
I'll answer the question later.
You're warning Cuba to make a deal. What does that deal look like? What do you want them to do?
Cuba is right now a failed nation. They don't even have jet fuel to get for airplanes to take off. They're clogging up their runway.
Star Trek Fleet Command is a strategy MMO for desktop and mobile. You can download it for free. Throughout the game,
We're talking to Cuba right now. I have Marco Rubio talking to Cuba right now. and they should absolutely make a deal because it's really a humanitarian threat. And we have a lot of great Cuban Americans, and they're going to be very happy when they're going to be able to go back and say hello to their relatives and do things that they should have been allowed to do for a long time. I'm very interested in the people that are here that were treated so badly by Castro and the Cuban authorities. They have been treated horribly. So we'll see how it all turns out. But Cuba and us, we are talking. In the meantime, there's an embargo. There's no oil. There's no money. There's no anything.
If a deal isn't made, would you consider an operation like the one in Venezuela?
I don't want to answer that. Why would I answer that? If I was, it wouldn't be a very tough operation, as you can figure. But I don't think that'll be necessary.
Mr. President, Marco Rubio received really positive reviews in Munich. Is there
very good reviews.
Is there a scenario in which you would support him at the top of the ticket in 28?
Something I don't have to worry about now. I've got 3 years to go. So it's something I don't have to worry. JD's fantastic and Marco's, they're both fantastic. I think Marco did a great job in Munich.
President Xi, in your talk with him recently, it warned about sending more weapons to Taiwan. What was your response to him? Are you going to send more weapons to Taiwan?
I have a response. I'm talking to him about it. We had a good conversation, and we'll make a determination pretty soon.
Tell us about your trip.
We have a very good relationship with President Xi. In fact, I'll be going, I guess, in April.
I'm sorry. Tell us about your trip to Rome, Georgia on Thursday, your trip to Marjorie Taylor Greene's old district.
Well, we have a lot of people that want to take Marjorie Taylor Greene's place. And many, many candidates, and I have to choose one. And they say whoever I endorse is going to win. But we have a lot of good candidates who want to take her place.
So your Board of Peace meets for the first time this week. You said it could be the most consequential international organization ever. That's a high bar. What do you want for this first meeting?
Well, I think it can be. We're going to have all world leaders. They're putting up tremendous amounts of money. And I think it's going to go far beyond Gaza. I think it'll be peace all over the world. And we're working in conjunction with the United Nations. Look, the United Nations is there. They haven't lived up to potential. The United Nations has great potential. They haven't lived up to the potential. But I think they might aid us a little bit. But we have the greatest leaders in the world joining the Board of Peace. And we'll be doing it in conjunction with, in some cases, the United Nations. And see if we can get the United Nations to get on the ball.
You've been a kingmaker in a lot of Republican primaries. A lot of people,
including foreign nations. I was very honored to see that a very wonderful prime minister in Japan won by a landslide. I think she was going to win, but she won by just about the biggest vote ever in Japan. And she attributed my endorsement for that. And that's very good because we have a great relationship with her and Japan.
a lot of Republicans in D.C. are asking you to endorse John Cornyn, but you haven't yet. Is there a chance you wouldn't endorse Paxton, and why haven't you endorsed Cornyn?
I just haven't made a decision on that race yet. It's got a ways to go, and I haven't. He's a good man. John is a good. I like all three of them, actually. I like all three. Those are the toughest races. They've all supported me. They're all good, and you're supposed to pick one. So we'll see what happens. But I support all three.
Are you going to get involved in the rift between UAE and Saudi Arabia?
No, I'm not. I would be.
What do you think of that?
I would be. Well, I could settle it very easily. But they have they do indeed have a rift, and we can get it settled very easily. I settle wars. I settle a lot of rifts between countries. You've been noticing, right? That's an easy one to settle.
On Venezuela, Nancy Rodriguez last week said that Nicolás Maduro is still a legitimate president and is innocent. I know you said the relationship is a 10, but I'm curious, what's your thoughts on that?
I think we have a great relationship. I think she probably has to say that. I think politically maybe she has to say that. But the relationship with Venezuela, she's doing a very good job. And I fully understand that statement.
You're going to have Ukraine talks tomorrow as well in Geneva with Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Yeah. What are you expecting there? Is there
well, big talks? It's going to be very easy. I mean, look, so far, Ukraine better come to the table fast. That's all I'm telling you. We are in a position. We want them to come. And by the way, I watched AOC answering questions in Munich. This was not a good look for the United States. I watched Gavin Newsom answering questions in Munich, and this was a bad look for our country. These two people are incompetent. And at least Hillary's competent. She's just Trump deranged. She was so deranged. She is an angry woman, but I watched the other two speaking and answering basic questions.
The number one reason that electrical companies miss out on their revenue goals isn't because of sales, it's hiring, and it all.
Look, Gavin has destroyed California, and AOC, I never heard her speak very much, and they started answering questions. She had no idea what was happening. She had no idea how to answer, very important questions concerning the world. But she can't answer questions concerning New York City either, because New York City is got some problems.
Now that Gaza's entering phase 2, should Israel lift its ban on foreign journalists being allowed into Gaza?
We'll be lifting a lot of bans pretty soon. I think you're going to see everything opening up. Gaza, look, we have peace in the Middle East. Now, you have some flames here and there, but we essentially have peace in the Middle East. And that happened primarily when we did the B-2 attack on the potential nuclear power. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month. If that happened, it would have been a whole different deal. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
So the $5 billion that you announced yesterday for the Board of Peace, is that a down payment, or are you expecting more?
We want to help people. That's peanuts compared to the kind of money that has been spent in the Middle East by Bush, by Obama, by all of these people, by Biden. I mean, the money he spent. But the money he spent, that's such a small amount of money by comparison. But we want to make it successful. I think it has the chance to be the most consequential board ever assembled of any kind.
What was called for Ron DeSantis?
Great. We had a great time. And Ron and a couple of other people, two great coaches, as you know. The two greatest coaches, I would say, certainly in college football. And we had a good time playing golf. Thank you very much. I didn't get to play today because I'm working on other things, very important things, much more important than golf. Thank you very much.
Melania for Valentine's.
Democrats for the partial government shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security, now entering day 4.
This is a Democrat shutdown. This has nothing to do with Republicans. This is a Democrat shutdown. They're upset that the crime numbers are so good. They're very unhappy that the crime numbers are so good. They're very unhappy that there's a movement for getting voter ID.
Counter proposal to the White House and GOP leaders to get operations open again. So far, no deal. The partial shutdown affecting the TSA, Coast Guard, FEMA, and the Secret Service. TSA officials working without pay, sparking concerns about staffing shortages and possible travel disruptions, similar to what we saw during last year's record 43-day shutdown. Joining me now is Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. Senator, it's great to have you this morning. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me in.
And I know that the House and Senate are on recess until next Monday. What is the plan do you expect once you're back in session? How long can this shutdown for DHS go on?
I sure hope that we can, but for me, I was the only Democrat that voted to refuse to shutting the government down. And I reminded even the director of ICE in a hearing just on Thursday that this shutdown would not impact the functionality of ICE, that they have plenty of money after the big, beautiful bill. So why shut this down? You can want to reform ICE, and I do, but that's not going to have the impact. But you're willing to shut down all of those very important parts of DHS that you just listed there. That's always wrong. And now why here we are, and I'm not sure how we're going to come back online.
You know, it's interesting because one wrinkle could be what President Trump says in his State of the Union address, right? I mean, it's unbelievable to me that the last time in 2019 we saw a previous government shutdown and President Trump was forced to delay that State of the Union because of this. The Democrats, some of your colleagues, are threatening that they're not even going to show up for the State of the Union. Will you be there?
Well, I'm saying it's fundamentally wrong to shut our government down. And if you want to reform ICE, as the Democrats, we do want some once, but that is not going to do that. And now why you're doing it, for me, it's always about country over party. And that's why I'll refuse to vote to shut the government down. And now with the the State of the Union, well, and I do expect to attend that, and I do hope there's not the same kinds of thing last year with the paddles and that kinds of disruptions. You can disagree or agree on things, but you don't have to turn it into like a spectacle like that.
I totally agree. And, Senator, that's where I think most people are. You might lean to the right on certain things and lean to the left on other things, but people don't want to see this kind of pettiness, certainly from our elected leaders. Meanwhile, the House passed the SAVE Act, as you know, 218 to 213 in the House. The bill now moves to the Senate. Democrats are vowing to block it with the filibuster. You've been very clear. You have no problem with the voter ID. But Maine Senator Susan Collins reversed her position, and now it looks like the Republicans have 51 votes, and they're talking about this so-called talking filibuster. Sir, and I want to get your take on what this means. The president obviously is urging Senate Majority Leader John Thune to scrap the filibuster altogether and pass the legislation with a simple majority. But it sounds like the Republicans want the Democrats on record to have this quote unquote talking filibuster so that the public understands who is not for having an ID to vote and who is. I spoke with Senator Bill Haggerty as well as Representative Anna Paulina Luna on this issue over the weekend. Here's what they said. Watch.
EVE Online is a vast universe.
We're looking at the talking filibuster. It's something that has not been used in a long, long time. It's a complicated process, but I think we're going to look at every way we possibly can to get this to the floor, to defeat the Democrats' obstructionism, and do something that makes common sense for Americans. We've gone through it as a conference, and now that we have Susan on board, I think we're going to be laser focused on this and any other method that we can utilize to get this onto the floor, because this is obviously something the American people want. I think what we'll have, if we actually implement it, is a higher turnout at elections, because people will have more confidence that the election of their vote is going to be sacred, it's going to be safe, and we're going to have voter integrity.
I would actually argue that this is probably the number one thing, especially moving into the midterms. Many senators have said, well, if we do this, the Democrats are going to do this when they regain power. But the fact is, Maria, is that the Senate Democrats have made it very clear that they want mass amnesty. They want mass naturalization of illegals. And frankly, I think they're going to do it anyways. And so the only way to really secure our country for future generations is to ensure that Americans have faith in the voting process, and that if their senators work against their interests, that they can vote them out at the ballot box. And that's exactly what this will do.
Senator, you've been very practical on this issue. I know that. But do you think that's what it's about? Your colleagues in the Democrat Party want illegals to vote? Is that why they're so against it?
Well, there's a lot to unpack in this about the SAVE Act. And now it's not being a serious conversation because right now there's not a Democratic co-sponsor for that. And that's why, because that's necessary because of the filibuster. And that's also part of history to unpack. We, as all the Democrats, we wanted to eliminate the filibuster. We called to eliminate the filibuster. And now we find ourselves that we love it now. And that reminds people that the filibuster is important about bringing on the other parts of to have a conversation. And now for me, there's other parts of SAVE Act that's been problematic for Democrats. But for me as a Democrat, just fundamentally at the end of the day, showing basic ID to vote is a very reasonable idea. And I think 84% of Americans in the last polling from Pew supports that. And Wisconsin, a very, very purple state, just less than a year ago, they put that in their constitution, and that was passed nearly by 2 to 1 margin too. Yeah, so that's, if it could just come down to where just showing a state ID, any state ID, I think that would make it a more difficult for Democrats to defend just basic kinds of ID.
So what's in there that's beyond there that's so problematic? In other words, if you had a clean bill just showing your ID to...
Would you just ask me, bro? Would you just ask me? Can I be coherent? What type of question is that, bro? Can I be coherent? Who are you, bro? I'm about to look you up. I don't give a damn about this show. I don't know who you think you are, bro. Been joined 6 months. Yeah, because that's a good thing. Tim, can you be coherent? What did I say to you? Python plays MC. 41 subs. Joined 6 months ago. No one gives a damn about you, bro. No one cares. The hell on, bro.
Vote, you would support that legislation.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm a Democrat that's not going to freak out. You know, the world didn't end what happened in Wisconsin. And now in Georgia, for example, Georgia, which I think skews red, I think we'd agree. And after the law, they elected 2 Democrat senators too. So for me, that's kind of where we're at. So there's a lot to impact on that.
Understood. The president has floated doing an executive order to get the SAVE Act across the line. Is that possible, Senator? Or because I mean, you're the only Democrat in the Senate who said yes, you understand voter ID and you're comfortable with it. Is there any way that do you see anybody else?
Ever since I've been president, every year it's been so a lot of great friends. This is your knockout panel, okay? For those that are interested, see that curtain? You open that curtain, and it's a beautiful funnel right into the most beautiful ballroom. So it's pretty, and they wanted it for 150 years. We're getting it done a lot. Getting a lot of other things done too. Well, I want to thank you all and welcome you to the White House on this very special occasion. It is indeed, I've been at every one of them, and we celebrate the 100th anniversary of Black History Month. That's a big deal. Wow, that's sort of special. The 100th. That's about as like 150 is good, but 200 is better, right? 100 is better. I want to begin by expressing our sadness at the passing of a person who I knew very well. Jesse was a piece of work. He was a piece of work, but he was a good man. He was a real hero, and I just want to pay my highest respects to Reverend Jesse Jackson. He's a good man. He's actually, as you got to know him, you got better and better all the time. A lot of people, you get to know them, they get worse and worse. Jesse got better and better. But I knew him well long before becoming president, and he really was special with lots of personality, grit, and street smarts. You would say Jesse had serious street smarts, right? Yeah. Very important ingredient to life, I will tell you. He was gregarious and someone who truly loved people and a force of nature. He was somebody that we're going to greatly miss. And on behalf of everyone here today, I know you join me in sending our condolences to the entire family. Great family. We're also honored to be joined this afternoon by many exceptional African-American leaders and patriots, including Secretary Scott Turner. Where is Scott? Where is Scott? Will you come up here, Scott? He was recommended by somebody who's very special to me, Ben Carson. Ben Carson. Where's Ben? Where's Ben? Come on up here, Ben. Come here. I got to get you. And his wonderful wife, Candy. Candy, I'm going to steal Ben for a second because, you know, Ben recommended Scott. And when Ben recommends somebody, I just do it. Did I make a good decision? Be careful. Don't fall, Ben. If you fall, that's the end. It's never, you can never recover from a fall. You can make the greatest speech ever, but if you fall, my predecessor taught me that. So is Scott doing a good job there? Come on, say it.
One of the reasons I was so high on Scott Turner is he was really the driving force behind the opportunity zones. It doesn't get nearly the attention that it should, but it was because President Trump realized that the best way to get things done is through public-private partnerships and have everybody with skin in the game. And it is working, as are all the other things that it's been recommending. And at some
Okay, Python. You know what? I'm done because YouTube's acting stupid. Python, are you really slow? What policy is he talking about right now? He's holding a Black History Month celebration. Does it need to be a policy? Did you not just watch the little gaggle he did? Did he not just say he has stuff brewing? Did you not watch the beginning where they're talking about the press conference that they're about to attack Iran? Are you dumb? Bro, you just get in here to comment to comment? That's what I think. I think you just comment to comment. I don't even think you know damn thing, bro. What's wrong with you?
At some point, the mainstream media will recognize that you don't politicize everything. You open your eyes and your ears, and you look and you see what works, and you deal with that. But the best thing about Scott, he's got a lot of energy. You know, I'm an old man now. I'll be 75 on my next birthday. I'm not like President Trump. He just goes forever. No one else is like that. But Scott Turner, we call him the Energizer Bunny, and he is doing a fantastic job. And I want to congratulate all the people at HUD because most of them have come back and continued with what we were doing during the first Trump term, and it's fantastic.
Well, just very briefly, thank you, Mr. President. We are so grateful for your leadership and for your heart for America. And Dr. Carson, who is a tremendous just leader, servant leader, and been a great mentor to me. And you know, I never thought that I would see the day where I'm standing between the president and Dr. Ben Carson. That's pretty cool. Yeah. And so I just want to say to everyone that's here, you know, as we celebrate this special day in not only Black history, but American history, this year that we've been here, you know, under President Trump, the Lord has been so gracious to us, and he's been faithful, and the president has been a tremendous leader in his work ethic, his heart for people. And when he says America first, he really does mean America first. And so, and to be able to stand on the shoulders of Dr. Ben Carson and for the president to trust Dr. Carson at his word is truly humbling for me. And so to stand now as a servant leader and Secretary of HUD, I'm grateful to the Lord, I'm grateful to the president and Dr. Carson, and I promise you we will continue to do good work and to make not just housing affordable and everybody achieve the American dream, but really to bring transformation and so that those that are in our country who depend on subsidies and this, that, and the other will get off of that and live a life of self-sustainability. God bless you.
Ben mentioned opportunity zones. We did that. And I want to thank Tim Scott because he really, that was his baby. That was his baby. And he did a great job with it. We appreciate it. And again, Candy, thank you very much for being here. Special woman. Ben's getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That's the biggest, it's the highest award you can have outside of the Congressional Medal of Honor. But it's better because, you know, a lot of people get the Congressional Medal of Honor, they're not around. You get them, they're not around. Whereas we don't have to go that far, generally speaking. But it's the highest award, civilian. And then you have the matching is the Congressional Medal of Honor, both tremendous. So Ben, I'll be seeing you back here pretty soon. I think you're going to get the award. Probably fill up this room. I said, we'll do it in the Oval Office. He said, sir, it's not big enough. I said, so we're going to do it right here, okay? I'd like to also thank Senior Counsel to the Assistant Attorney General. He's a fantastic man. He's been my friend for a long time, Leo Terrell. There's no better. We have time, right? We have time, yes? Anybody have to go? Like, come on up here, Leo. This guy, he says it like it is.
Let me just, thank you very much, Mr. President. First of all, we are living under the administration of the greatest president in our lifetime. And we have the hottest country in our lifetime. And I want to make sure the mainstream media knows this because you represent the people who basically counter what the mainstream media has done. President Trump was the president who fully funded historically black colleges and universities. President Trump took the lead and performed criminal justice reform. President Trump made sure that we had opportunity zones. Let me close by saying this. This country is at a crossroads, and we have the right president at the right time. And if you want school choice, like I know you do, President Trump wants it. If you want a law and order society and secure border, President Trump wants it. And more importantly, I say this because this is the greatest country on the planet. American citizens should decide American elections. Vote for to say that.
Leo 2.0. Thank you, Leo. That was very good. This is special. I watched him on Sean Hannity a long time ago. He used to be a Democrat, you know. Leo was a Democrat. That's a long time ago, right? Can you imagine you were a Democrat? I can't imagine. You can see him with Leo 2.0 up in that. We love him. He's a great man. General Counsel for the Department of War, Earl Matthews. That's a big deal. Thank you, Earl. I see Johnny over there with a great book. How's the book doing? Good? What a great person you are. Great book. White House Pardon Czar. This is a big job. This is a big job. Alice Johnson. Alice? Where's Alice? What a sweetheart. I met Alice and she was incarcerated for what some people would say today is not even a fine, right, Alice? It's not even a fine. And I said, how long has she been in jail? 22 years. I said, 22 years? And right, Alice? And come on up here, Alice. I said, 22 years, and she was on a phone call. This was over a phone call. I know about fake phone calls too, Alice. They tried to get me in a fake phone call. But Alice was in jail for like 22 years. I said, how many years does she have left? 28. I said, 28 years left. And I said, and I mean, she admitted she made a little mistake, but it was not the kind of a mistake that you served 50 years in jail for. Like maybe a couple of months, maybe less than that. And I said, this is the most unfair. And then when I met her, I fell in love. My wife was very upset with it. A great first lady did not like that, Scott. She didn't like it. But Alice is great, and say a couple of words. It was so ridiculous. 22 years, she had 28 left. And I said, let's get her the hell out of here. We got her out. We did a commune. And then when I got to know her, she was so helpful. I said, full pardon. So she's cleaner than anybody in this room, even than my friend right here. She's cleaner. Because of that, she's cleaner than anybody in this room.
Thank you, Mr. President. The feeling was mutual. I fell in love with this man, with his heart, with his heart for this country, with his heart to really bring America back to the form of greatness that it deserved. And that's exactly what he's done. My story is truly a Joseph story. This president right here, President Donald Trump, brought me from the prison pit to the White House. Only in America could there be a story like my story. And President Trump is the only president who would have had the courage, the courage to bring someone like me, someone who received a second chance, but who knows more than someone who has sit among the captives, than someone who has been in captivity themselves. I did not get comfortable in my own freedom, but I went back, as Harriet Tubman said she did. She went back to draw many others into freedom. And President Trump has listened to those recommendations. There's so much more to come, because when you see me, you see a miracle. You see hope. You see second chances. And you see someone who is willing to roll up their sleeves and do the work, do the hard work to help individuals gain their freedom. President Trump did something historic in his first term. He signed the First Step Act into law. And for that, over 40,000, and that number is low, over 40,000 individuals have come home to their families early. And you know, many of those were Black Americans who had no hope.
At Great Lakes Hyundai in Dublin, you already know the savings are so good. How good? We price every new car at invoice way below.
The president cares for you. Don't let anyone tell you that this president right here, Donald Trump, is not for Black America, because he is. I'm standing here today as a testament to how he feels about Black Americans. There has never been a position like this. I don't know if there ever will be before, but I worked with him in his first term, and I'm proud to now officially have a title to make it happen. Let's get real with the realness. Let's get behind President Trump, who truly has turned our nation around and made us the envy of every country in the world. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, God, for recognizing and raising up this man to be the leader of the free world.
You know, I was looking for a pardon person, a pardon czar. They gave me somebody from Harvard, somebody from Yale, somebody from Princeton, somebody from Penn, somebody from Stanford. And I said, do you know anything about it? Well, we could learn. When I met Alice, I said, she's better than these people. And she's done a fantastic job. You know, I said to Alice, I said, so I'm looking for people like you to let out. How many people are there like you? She said, many. I said, many? In jail. Think of it, 22 years she was in jail, and she had 28 years to go on a phone call. You admit you did a little something wrong, right? But it was like, okay. It wasn't 50 years. Even if you said 6 months, today it would be probably nothing. But even if you said some little time, but I said, I'm looking for other people like you. How many are there? Many. Then I was worried. I said, well, maybe she's going to say everybody should be let out. And we're not really I said, so Alice, are there people that shouldn't be? You met a lot of people, right? Are there people that shouldn't be let out? Absolutely. Then I'm talking about. Because there's some bad ones in there too, right? But you are fantastic, and you've been great and so respected all over the country, all over the world. In a sense, you've become a very big story. Thank you very much, Alice. I appreciate it. We have Lynn Pat. Lynn, thank you for such a help. And Kelly Mitchell, thank you, Kelly. Thank you. Where's Kelly? Thank you, Kelly. And we have Dr. Alvida King. Thank you, darling. Thank you. You've been with me from day one, right? From day one, she's been there. She's been fighting for me, and I fight for her. I don't have to do too much fighting for her. She takes care of herself. Thank you. Thank you. We can say Merry Christmas, right? Thank you. Thank you for all that support for years, right? Even before Alice, a long time, years before Alice, right? Thank you, darling. Corinne Rankin, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. And Deontay Johnson. And a man who's been with me for a long time, and he's never asked me for a thing. Bruce, thank you very much. Bruce is out. Thank you very much. I wasn't sure that your name down here, Bruce. I was going to mention you anyway. You did a job, finally. They always leave a lot of names out, and that bothers me. Like I see Scott Message, his name was left out. First time ever. Look at Scott. I'm looking for his name. I'm looking for his name. I said, I bet he's the greatest Treasury Secretary we've ever had. I think he's, how's the economy doing, Scott? Good? The best. It's really, people are going to see, and watch the State of the Union. We're going to be talking about the economy. We inherited a mess, and now we have prices way down. We have energy way down. Gasoline is now breaking $2 a gallon in many places. And it's been actually amazing, but Scott's fantastic. I don't want to forget to mention it might be a big trouble. All of a sudden, the economy would turn bad on us. I say, what happened? It was Scott. Thank you, Scott. And Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer. Lori, thank you very much. Secretary of Labor, Assistant Attorney General Harvey Diller. How are you doing? How are you doing with Harvard? How are you doing with Harvard? You know, Harvard's extremely discriminatory, unfortunately, and it's working good. Our meat is on their trail, right? Good, good. You keep doing that now. I like the historically black colleges and universities, which I saved. Leo 2.0 says, but which I saved. We saved them. They had no funding, and every year they'd come back, and I got to know some of the heads, and every year they'd come back, and after my 30th first term, they said, you guys keep coming back. Why do you keep coming back? I said, we have to come back every year. For years and years, they had to come back. And one of them said, one of the heads, a great guy, said, they make us feel like beggars. We have to come back. I said, I'm going to get you long-term financing, and I got it for them. And I said, the only bad thing, I'll never see you guys again. I haven't seen too many of them. But we took care of the historically black colleges and universities, right? And it was a great thing to do. And so many others are in the audience that are just friends of mine. So many. But if I introduce all of you, we meet all the time, and that's unacceptable. Not only are we celebrating the century of Black History Month, also, as you know, this year we'll also be celebrating the 250th anniversary of the good thing, when they cheated on the election, they made me wait 4 years, and because I waited 4 years, I get the 250th year. I get the Olympics, which I was the one that got it, and I get the World Cup. So I got the World Cup, and I said, you know, it's too bad, before all this nonsense took place, I said, it's too bad, I got the World Cup to come here. Johnny, another Johnny, we got the World Cup. It was fantastic, the head of it, one of the great people. And I said, the only bad part is I won't be in office because my 4 years will be up. This would have been the more traditional route. And then they cheated on the election, and I said, now we won by millions of votes, but they cheated. It was during the COVID period. And we did it again, and we made it too big to rig. And by doing that, I ended up getting the Olympics. I ended up being responsible for both of them. And we're going to have a great year, but we're going to have a great 3 years. We're going to have hopefully we're going to have a great century. We'll get it started. But as we honor America's 250, and I can't say that I got the 250. I tried doing that a couple of times, Bruce. I said, I got the Olympics, I got the World Cup, and I got the 250th year. They said, you didn't do that. I said, you're right about that. We happened to be here at the right time. That's all that was. But we thank God for the strength and courage and grit and devotion of Black Americans who have helped make America the most powerful country in the history of the world we now have. And you saw that with our attack a few weeks ago on Venezuela. We have the greatest military in the world. We make the greatest equipment in the world. There's nobody even close. Nearly 10,000 African Americans fought for the Patriot caused the Revolutionary War. Did you know that? 10,000, it's actually a number even, I've heard even a number higher than that, helping secure our independence in every generation since, from the Buffalo Soldiers to the Tuskegee Airmen. Black Americans have stepped forward to defend the flag and to defend our country. Like few others, really, like few others. And you've never really been given the recognition that you should get for that. You know that, man? They never, I don't think a lot of people have given the kind of recognition, but everyone knows all about the Tuskegee Airmen. They were great and amazing. The Buffalo Soldiers, you know the Buffalo Soldiers? Good stuff, right? From jazz to the blues, that you know, that you do get recognition for. Jazz to blues, from rock and roll to rap, black artists like Chuck Berry, Muddy Waters. How about Nicki Minaj? I love Nicki Minaj. She was here a couple of weeks ago. She's so beautiful. Your skin's so beautiful. I said, her nails were like that long. I said, Nicki, are they real? She said, she didn't want to get into that. But she was so beautiful and so great. And she gets it. And more importantly, she gets it. But black leaders from Frederick Douglass to Martin Luther King, right? Little relative over here, have made our country freer. Really, what they've really done is made life more just. And black athletes have inspired millions around the globe, from Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, also, by the way, what a great fighter. Muhammad Ali was a
Scott, there's only 51 people in here. You come in here saying Trump is a disgrace. I want to say you're a disgrace. He's just sitting here praising people, and you come in here with your negative ass energy, bro. You're disgusting. Nobody gives a damn about your liberal ass. Get on, move on, go cry to somebody else, because no one gives a damn about you, bro. Go cry. Bye-bye. Ryan, off this fool.
friend of mine. I put a picture of myself and Mohammed. It was another piece of work you talk about, a piece of work, but he could fight, couldn't he? Mike Tyson, boy, I tell you, Mike has been loyal to me. Whenever they come out and say, Trump's a racist, you know, it's like a statement, Trump's a racist. Mike Tyson goes, he's not a racist, he's my friend, he's been there from the beginning, good times and bad. But Mike Tyson's a great guy, and he was so loyal, always been loyal. And Herschel Walker, speaking about loyal, how good a football player was Herschel? Herschel Walker, now he's the ambassador to the Bahamas. Bahamas, Bermuda, is in Bahamas, whatever. It's a nice place. You'd like that, Bruce, wouldn't you? Bruce wants it. And a guy became really, he liked Trump, Jim Brown. He'd come in, he was very silent. He was silent but deadly. He'd come in and he'd look at people, and if he didn't like them, he'd just look at me and he'd go, rip the heart out. I would say there can't be a greater football player than Jim Brown. By the way, Lawrence Taylor, great friend. The great Lawrence Taylor, the greatest defensive player probably in the history of football. He's a great friend of mine. And, but I'm longer off the tee than him. You know what? Because I take the clip back further. He takes the clip back this far, and he hits it 200 yards. When you can do that, you're strong. He is a great guy, I'll tell you that. And all of this is a part of the legacy that we celebrated on July 4th, 2026, because Black History Month is really all about American history. This is a big year. This is a big year for you. During my first term, I was honored to deliver unprecedented victories for Black Americans and all Americans, frankly, but Black Americans, I single-handedly secured record long-term funding for. I told you, the historically Black colleges and universities. I created nearly 9,000 opportunity zones with our great secretary, and also I think we have to do, as I said before, Tim Scott really came to me with that idea, and we put it into use, right, Scott? And I signed historic criminal justice reform into law. We got criminal justice reform. Just so you know, for 30 years, you more than any other group of people has been trying to get criminal justice reform, and they couldn't do it. And a group of people came to my office, and they asked me to do it. They couldn't get it. They needed 5 conservative votes in the Senate, and conservative was 5 conservative white votes in the Senate. And of the 5, all 5 of them were totally against, and I called them up, and they were great. They were great. And one of them was Senator John Kennedy, to be honest with you. He was not in favor of it, and I spoke to him, and he was 100%. He's a great senator, a great guy, and you know that he was a tremendous help. So we got criminal justice reform done and approved, and nobody thought it could be done. And it's no wonder that in 2024 we won more African American votes than any Republican president in history. And just over 1 year ago, we had a dead country. We were a dead country. Scott just said it. We were dead as a doornail. We had an idiot as our president. We had a man that was not a president. Number one, he didn't win the election. He was not a president. Yeah, right. He was a real beauty, wasn't he? He allowed 25 million people into our country. Many of them should not have been here. Now we have, by the way, we went from the worst quarter in history to the best, by far, the best quarter. But I had the support of many people, Bruce. I had the support of many people in this room, and we've got right now the hottest country anywhere in the world. King of Saudi Arabia told me that. He said, "You were a dead country a year and a half ago. Now you're the hottest country. We're the hottest country right now anywhere in the world. You're a big part of it, and you're a big beneficiary." I told you, take a look at your 401ks. Has anybody got a 401k that's lower than it was? Lower than it was a year ago? They're double. I mean, they are through the roof. The stock market has hit 53 all-time record highs since the election. And earlier this month, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose above 50,000 for the first time ever, right, Scott? First time ever. And also, you know, they don't talk about this. The S&P broke 7,000. So when I got elected, they said, for the S&P to break 7,000 within 4 years would be a great achievement for the president. And for the Dow Jones to break 50,000 would be a great thing, but it's not possible. They're talking about it in 4 years. Scott, they said in 4 years it would not be possible to break 50,000 or 7,000 under these two very important, call them metrics. The metrics. And you know what happened? We broke it before the end of my first year. So we did something. So they said we couldn't do it in 4 years. We did it in 1 year. More Americans are working today than at any time in American history. So we have more Americans right now working than at any time. And you know, when I see this stuff, I get the fake news back there a lot of it. Sometimes we have to be very careful because they actually know it's not pretty, Leo. You have to get Leo in the DOJ involved. But think of that, Leo, think of that. More Americans are working today than any time in history. And since I took office, African-American employment has increased by 182,000, the highest jobs. 182,000, nearly 500,000 Black Americans have rejoined the labor force since we took office. 500,000 wages for workers have increased $1,000, $2,000, even $3,000, and even sometimes, in some cases, $5,000 a year. That's faster than inflation. So wages have gone up at a much faster clip than inflation. We took over the worst inflation in the history of our country. They say 48 years or 49 years. I said that, you know, I said inflation under Biden went up more than at any time in the history of our country. They said, he's not right about that. It's 49 years. I said, all right, I'll accept that. Actually, I think it sounds worse. I mean, I think for some reason, because when you say the worst ever, but when you say the worst in 49 years, I'll take that, right? The fake news got me to that one. I think I was right, by the way, but I'll accept 48 or 49 years. But for the first time in many years, 100% of all net job creation is going to American-born citizens. Think of that. And in the last administration was going mostly to illegal aliens that came in, many of them murderers and others. Last summer, we passed the largest working class tax cuts in the history of our country. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And you're going to see them. You know, it just kicked in on January 1st. You're going to see tremendous results, and they're already seeing it. And I think we're going to have GDPs, we're going to have numbers that nobody's ever seen before. So, joining us this afternoon, and really somebody that is fantastic. And Nana Bradford in 2019, Nana and her husband opened an incredibly successful coffee shop in Arkansas named Hebrews 11:1. That's an interesting name. No one thinks that the no tax on tips matters. Well, it does matter, and it matters a lot to Annetta. And she was able to grow her business just in a short period of time and hired more employees. And she's making a fortune. I'd like you to give some of the people in that room some of that money, Annetta. She's making it up. And then, come in. Arnetta, come, where are you? Arnetta, come on up here, Arnetta.
I can't do anything first but say to God be the glory. I have no business being here other than Him having me here. So, y'all not gonna do it. Not gonna preach. Right. So, thank you so much for inviting me and having me here. It's such an honor to be here today. Hebrews 11:1. People ask me all the time, why did I even open the business? Why did I even call it Hebrews 11:1? Hebrews 11:1 is my very favorite scripture. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not seen. That scripture has walked with me, it has grown me from a little girl on up. Not having no longer my mother here.
Okay, Joseph, you're my next victim. Do you have such Trump derangement syndrome that you're crying? What won't make you cry? Huh? What won't make you cry, little Joseph? Little Joseph, you want to sit there and cry? Like, what believes this man? It's literally celebrating Black History Month. He's praised all the Black people, that leaders, athletes, everybody, and you're in here crying. What can he possibly do for you that would make you fucking happy, huh? Joseph, nothing, because you're a little cuck. Move on, boy. No one cares. Block him, Ryan. How did he get so many damn comments in? Dude's an idiot. You're dumber than any of these people talking, Joseph, times 10, just so you know.
Longer having my father here. My husband not having his mother, his father here. We opened Hebrews 11.
Hell, I want to end this damn show, but I'm not going to disrespect the people talking. That's the only reason why I'm letting it play.
With no funding, no money, no big family investors, no business loans, didn't have great credit. It was us and faith in God. That was 7 years ago. But I ran that business with just myself and one employee. Then here comes no tax on tips. I was able to hire 7 more employees. Just what you. Not only that, I was able to open a second location on our college campus. Things are just going off simply because having now faith. And so I love the fact that scripture, now I say all of that as to try to stick to my little written down thing that I wrote. I don't know how to do that. But as a small business owner, I understand how critical support is. I understand that you have to have the right people that make the right policies for us as small business owners. So no tax on tips has been an extreme blessing for me and my business. Not just mine, but I know so many people across the country.
In the furniture business, things move fast. ZipRecruiter finds the best candidates for all our jobs, so we can find the best people who will jump right in and hit the ground running.
4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality.
Right? Was just so horribly taken from you. Under the Trump administration, we believe that no community should be abandoned to the scourge of violent crime, and we're saving thousands and thousands of lives in many cities. And frankly, these radical left lunatic Democrats would come and say, please help us, please. We'd stop crimes all over the place. And we're doing it in a lot of cities. Sometimes we have to force ourselves upon them because they're so bad. And I don't even think they realize what's happening to their cities and their towns. But every town that we go in, every city that we go in, like Washington, police, you feel much safer now. Totally safe. You can walk to a restaurant. The restaurants are all closing now. You can't get a restaurant. And the bad news is you can't get into a restaurant. But it's a great thing to see what's happening in Washington. It's like it's a hot place. And hopefully people will be coming in record numbers. I know we need a little help. You need help in Atlanta. He just said, you're right. Atlanta, we could take care of Atlanta. I'll tell you what, you ought to get them to call me. We could take care of Atlanta so fast. They don't want to call. They don't want to call because they don't want to admit it, and they'll never fix it themselves. Don't forget, we move people out. We don't just go in and be tough guys. We move people out. We take career criminals and we get them out. We bring them back to the country from where they came. And think of it: 90% of the crime is caused by 2% of the people. So when you get the criminals out, you solve a lot of problems. Another way that we're fulfilling our duty to the next generation is the single biggest thing that's happened having to do with schools and education. It's called school choice, and our great, big, beautiful bill. Our beautiful bill, which really covers 4 years. We put it all together. That's why we call it the great, big, beautiful bill. This will help millions of African-American children and ensure that no child is condemned to a failing government or a horrible school. And we have a person here who's fantastic on this subject. Greta, would you please come up? Please, Greta, come on up. And her beautiful daughter.
Well, I did to God be the glory. And we're grateful for our president. He's doing some tremendous work. And I want to remind those that don't know that this was prophesied. So you weren't supposed to have a second term when it came about. This is your season. And God said that it was going to be rough the first 2 years. And that things were going to happen in the last 2 years. And yes, you're going to get some things. And so for that, we thank you. On behalf of all the mothers all around the world, I'm from Texas. I live in a zip code that I didn't have an opportunity to have a choice to go to school. And so when I raised my children, I wanted a better opportunity for them. And I'm so grateful to ACE scholarships and all of the doors that the president is opening for education. My son was in a school that he didn't have any voice. And he found drugs in school. And he died. And so I'm here today to just show my appreciation for all the moms around the world. We have a choice now. This choice is so important to mothers. I have a child that, because I had a choice, she's in private school, she's thriving. She's going to be an anesthesiology nurse, and she's doing great. And ACE scholarships was a big part of that. Changing education changes everything. Changing education changes everything. In my zip code, it feels like we were locked in a cage. And being locked in a cage and we can't get out. And because of all of the things that we're doing in education, now we can get out and soar. Our children can have a chance to be just like other children. And I think this is a great opportunity. So on behalf of all the mothers all around the world, I stand in your while you can still get them. Thank you. I appreciate
it. Thank you very much. Thanks, Greta. So we're calling it in, and I just want to say this is an honor to be here. We celebrate Black History Month. We honor the memory of those who came before us by continuing their legacy and fighting for an America that's really an America that's safe and strong and prosperous. We now have a country that's bigger, better, greater than ever before. I want to thank all my secretaries and all of the people that came here. Our military leaders are here. We have a lot of people that are here, and I want to thank you all. but there's a very special group of people. So
or renting a car or doing all kinds of things. What that excludes for a lot of Americans if they don't have just a basic state ID.
Yeah.
So, and the vast majority of Americans have no problem with that. And, then there's kinds of examples, whether it's Wisconsin or Georgia, that hasn't really seemed to be like the end of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to move on and talk about Iran. Your voice has been so important here in terms of support for Israel. And of course, the president just met with Netanyahu again. U.S. and Iran officials held another round of nuclear talks in Geneva today. I believe the talks at this point have ended this morning as military tensions continue to rise between the two nations. Iranian naval forces, including the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, conducted military drills in the Strait of Hormuz Monday, and special envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are leading these negotiations. I want to get your take on this, because in the middle of all of these talks, Senator, it looks like Khomeini is mocking the United States again. First, here's the president on his role in all of this. Watch.
Out here, every commander seeks something different.
I'll be involved in those talks indirectly, and they'll be very important. We'll see what can happen. But typically, Iran's a very tough negotiator. They're good negotiators, or bad negotiators. I would say they're bad negotiators, because we could have had a deal instead of sending the B-2s in to knock out their nuclear potential. And we had to send the B-2s. I hope they're going to be more reasonable. I think they want to make a deal. I don't think they want the consequences of not making a deal.
Senator, if this group can't even, sort of hold back on their hostilities against the United States during the talks, what should we expect? Because here are Khomeini's tweets. The U.S. president has said that for 47 years, the United States has not been able to eliminate the Islamic Republic. That's a good confession, I say. You, too, will not be able to do this. Then he goes on to say, the Americans constantly say that they've sent a warship toward Iran. A warship is a dangerous piece of military hardware. However, more dangerous than that warship is the weapon that can send that warship to the bottom of the sea. So now they're threatening us on their nuclear capabilities, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's laughable. I mean, I think it took Israel exactly about 2 days to achieve new air supremacy, and they were begging for a ceasefire about that war last year. And now, absolutely, I supported the B-2s bombing their nuclear facilities as well too. We can never allow Iran to acquire a nuclear bomb. Absolutely not. And I was the only Democrat to support striking those facilities, and I will be probably the only Democrat again. Now, that's why it's entirely important to make sure that Iran never acquires that nuclear bomb. So I don't think you can trust Iran right now. And they are so desperate now, they were executing thousands and thousands of their young citizens just wanting for rights and democracy too. So I think they're teetering, and I think they're scared. And that's why they put out that laughable tweet just recently, because they know that they're scared and they realize that we mean business. And now we can strike and hit their nuclear facilities again, because we have the ability to do exactly that.
Well, I mean, it's literally a threat. I mean, the other tweet from Khomeini says the U.S. president keeps saying that they have the strongest military force in the world. The strongest military force in the world may at times be struck so hard that it cannot get up again.
Yeah, I mean, it's laughable.
Yeah.
I mean, Israel just wrecked them, absolutely wrecked them into submission just last year. And now here we are now. It's like they do not have the capabilities to talk that tough. They can't back it up. And now I hope that there's a peaceful kinds of outcome, but I don't think that's going to happen, because the only thing that they respect and respond to is force, just exactly what we used about destroying parts of their nuclear facilities. And I'll be I'll be the Democrat to stand with Israel through that for peace in the region. And now let's call Iran what they are, and they need to be taken out of the business of acquiring a nuclear bomb.
So the president has put sanctions and tried to use diplomacy in this situation since that, taking out the nuclear facilities. But now the president wants the ballistic missiles taken out, and he wants the Iranians to stop supporting these terrorist proxies. You say, look, the world knows Iran's never going to honor any of this and any treaty. So why are we negotiating? What are we negotiating?
Yeah, no, I agree. I've said that on Twitter just a couple days ago. It's like, why? I mean, to me, it's a waste of time.
What is
they only
the
respond by force and
negotiation?
strength, and I fully support that. And another thing we want to remind people:
I agree. Why are we even negotiating? That doesn't make sense. I don't know.
China did buy the vast majority of all their oil. That absolutely would have broken that regime. China is willing to support this regime, and they continue to provide the revenue that backs up their regime. So here we are. We can't ever allow these kinds of nuclear ambitions, and now all these other missiles technology too. I will support those kind of strikes, and if we do bring up another Iranian war powers, I will vote no against that too.
Well, you raise a really important point in terms of China, because China acts like a friend to the United States, but then is complicit on every level, undermining the United States. What do you want to see out of this upcoming meeting between the president and Xi Jinping in April? Because I know that there are plenty of Chinese companies that trade on our exchanges. And, I mean, aren't we in many ways just funding the expansion of our number one adversary here? Are there other things to be doing to get tough with China so that they're not bullying the world like they are right now with their critical minerals?
Absolutely. I mean, they're not, obviously they're not an ally. They're not even, I'm not sure they're even a frenemy. So for me, confront them. Why do you buy all of the Iranian oil, and that props up a poisonous regime and a destabilizing force in the region? Why don't you want peace in Middle East? Why would you want to support that? Because they back the kinds of proxies that, that Hamas and Hezbollah. Why? So I think that's entirely appropriate if the president confronts them and demands that they must stop this kinds of destabilizing force. And it's actually evil standing with a regime like Iran.
Yeah. And you've tweeted about a lot of this as well. And I want to get your take on sort of the response that you get from your colleagues, because you look at all of these issues in such a practical way, which is why you've got so many fans and so many supporters of moderates and Republicans as well. Senator, you've said to me in the past that there's rot within the Democrat Party when it comes to anti-Israel rhetoric among some members. I mean, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez recently suggested that the U.S. should consider reevaluating military aid to Israel. I mean, it was stunning. Tell us more.
No, I agree. I've consistently, that's part of the rot in the Democratic Party. Why? If you have to pick a side, why would you pick the side or defend Hamas or defend Iran in a way? For me, stand with Israel. I'll never vote for any kinds of restrictions on aid, whether it's military, financial, or intelligence. There are ever going to be any restrictions on that. And now here we are, we can have peace. Again, that's become part of the serious problem in our party.
Okay, I am going to now explain before I get out of here. I've got 4 minutes, so we're at 2.5 hours. First off, I did not want to interrupt the people that were speaking on behalf of Black History Month. I let it go. First and second, YouTube has been acting really funny. Yesterday, I woke up and YouTube just didn't work. I couldn't sign in to any of my accounts. Today, while we were streaming, I went from 300 people in the room to 13 in one swoop. So there's something going on with YouTube's counting. I only stayed on just to put the information out while I'm here doing it because it was live, or I would have gotten out. There's no reason for me to sit around in here for that. So yeah, there's something going on with YouTube. There's no way you should be dropping. Like just now when I ended it, there was like 40 something people and it said 2 in the other thing. So yeah, the counting thing isn't right. They're not counting their stuff right. I don't know what's going on. I mean, it is what it is. As soon as it would hit a certain number, it would just drop. So I don't know where that stands, but I'm not going to sit around for it. I got plenty of content. I might be on later on tonight. If not, tomorrow night. Much love, y'all. Thank you for the dono, Miss Jelly Beanie. Everybody else, y'all have a beautiful day. Much love. God bless. And I will see y'all. Wait, hold on. I will see you on the other side. Peace out, y'all. Well, you said I get it. Hey, Miss Jelly, they are super censoring things. But yes, the other I don't know, maybe it was from my last stream. I don't know. Maybe it was from my last stream. Go watch my last one. Maybe they're still pissed about that. I don't know. But I do think it has something to do with YouTube. But anyways, y'all be good. Much love. Thank you again. God bless. Oh yeah. Let me change the banner. I don't like this banner. I want it to be what's the most trolling it could possibly. Oh yeah, the Karoline Leavitt, because that's what the show says in the thing. Okay. All right, I'm putting this up so that I could use this as my thing. I don't even want to keep this video up, but I'm going to, I think. All right, y'all. Much love. Is that what's up now? All right, cool. Take care, y'all. Much love. Peace. God bless. And I'm outie.